Hey guys, Miss Sewing here, and in the video today we're going to discuss the concept of fight or flight. So fear is a survival instinct. When we see something that's scary, we get the urge to do one of two things. We either fight the scary thing or we run away. Called flight. This makes sense. This is kind of just ingrained in us, right? If something is scary, say, if we look way back in time, back to where like the cavemen were, and it was thundering and lightning and super scary outside. This is my attempt at drawing a thunderstorm. We're gonna flight. We're gonna run away. We're gonna seek cover. If there is a animal that we kind of stumble upon and scare, and it's us versus the animal, let's say you're walking around and there's a giraffe. This is my drawing of a really, really bad giraffe. His head would be up here. Let's ignore that. We're gonna have to fight that thing, right? It's us versus the giraffe. Giraffes are scary as heck. If you don't believe me, Google giraffes fighting. They are vicious animals. We get a choice to make, right? We're not going to lay down and die. We're going to fight that thing. So this is sort of ingrained in us. This is part of our DNA. We see this fight or flight response throughout history. We see evidence of what happens when we panic, when we are scared, when we are paranoid of the unknown. And a great example of this is the Salem witch trials. That is back in like the 1600s, where we killed people who were accused of being witches for whatever reason. There was, I believe, some crop damage that year, lots of famine. The way of life that people were used to was sort of threatened, and it got very scary. And so people accused, mostly women, of manipulating the weather, manipulating conditions, and therefore being witches. And of course, those people drowned and were killed. And we know now, of course, there are no such thing, and that these people didn't do anything. This is panic. This was not based in reality. When fearful things are going on in society, our government can respond to that in a couple of ways. We're going to look at two of those ways right now. The first government response to fear would be physical, shutting down the borders, closing borders, building up walls in order to keep others out. And when you look at things like the Great Wall of China, that would be an example of a physical response. The Great Wall of China separates us versus them. And of course, our border wall with the US and Mexico would be another example. Physical borders to keep others out. Now, there's also some legal avenues as well. Government can respond to fear by passing laws to make certain things harder. For example, visa rules and regulations. If you make those really complex, really lengthy, well, then it's harder for people to immigrate here, move here. Another example of a legal response to fear would be segregation. Segregation means to separate based on race. So for part of our history, it was illegal for Black and white people to be in the same space together. That is a law that, of course, makes life harder. That was based in fear, not reality. You could also use the example of like banning same-sex marriage. Again, that is a law that prevents people from doing something because of a fear of whatever it is. In that case, of course, homophobia. So it is important to note that many of our fears come from what we choose to believe rather than what's actually dangerous or what the reality is. We can see examples of this throughout our history, and we're going to dive into some of those examples within this topic about times where our government has a fear-based response rather than a fact-based response. I'm going to dive into about 4 of those topics over the next couple of lessons.